So there are a lot of things I wanted to cover in my first review of the Joker that I couldn't because it would be going into a lot of spoiler territory. But now I am just going to let it all out. So the warning is in full effect. If you haven't seen the film yourself already, go see it. There are some things I really loved about this film, but there are also some minor issues that go into spoiler territory. But of course, I'm going to start out with some of the things I loved. I think the way Arthur's laugh was portrayed here was brilliant. The way they made him like really sad and miserable as he was laughing. Just from the opening scene alone, he's literally tearing up with blue makeup as he is laughing, completely uncontrollably, which perfectly sets the tone for the rest of the first act, and how all of his laughter is just associated with pure pain and misery. He's literally coughing and tearing up while he's laughing. Everything about it was so clever. And then it's paralleled in the final act to where he is embracing his laugh. The way he is having fun with it. He's enjoying it. He's no longer sad or miserable in any way because he just sees life as one big comedy. He's drifting off into pure insanity, and you don't want him to because you care for his character. But the way they portray it, it's so beautiful and artistic. There were also two times in the first act where he was walking up that really long flight of stairs, just really sad, miserable, and purely hunched over. But the way it's paralleled in the final act, where it's like he's dressed up in his full makeup, his suit, everything, and he's just dancing down the stairs, super excited, super free and everything, and kicking down the water, things like that. He just feels so free, and he's just purely insane. He doesn't care what anyone else thinks, and he just sees it all as a big comedy. The way that's paralleled and the way that's displayed between his line of pure sadness and misery and just pure insanity, everything about it was so brilliant, and it was a detail that I noticed again when I actually watched it for a second time. The first act of this film is essentially a portrayal of pure misery and pain and the horrible life that he's experiencing. You're getting a deep dive into everything about his life that's so shitty, to where you can feel sympathy for him, but they also make his character accessible, to where you can actually connect to him and feel empathy for him. I think a perfect example of this is the sequence where he was fantasizing about being on the Murray Franklin show, where he fantasized about Murray Franklin saying, "Hey, come up on stage, I want to talk to you," and everything like that, and Murray Franklin actually hugged him. And I see that as a symbolism of a lack of a father figure in his life, which is a perfect way to make you feel sympathy for him, but also making you being able to connect with him because of the way the fantasy sequence is detailed out. I also love the way they portray Arthur's lifestyle within that fantasy sequence, and how people don't really understand him and why he lives with his mother to take care of her. And there's so much detailed out in the sequence in general to where you can actually care for his character, and they make him very accessible, as I said. You don't want him to drift into insanity. You want things to go right for him because you do care for him. You feel on edge throughout the entire second act as he is drifting into madness, which I love here. And I loved the final act in its portrayal of Arthur's pure insanity. How he's already reached his breaking point, and he doesn't care anymore. He doesn't care what anyone else thinks. He finally just sees life as a big comedy, and he will do whatever he wants because he doesn't care. And also the way he's in the cop car and he's just looking at the rioting from this whole political movement against Thomas Wayne becoming mayor, and he's like, "Isn't it beautiful?" It's just purely people being killed, a fire burning around the city and everything. He doesn't care. He is just purely insane. And I love the film's portrayal of that. There is one issue though, and it's that during the final sequence of Murray Franklin basically talking with him as he is admitting that he killed those three guys on the subway, his response to what happened just feels so unrealistic, like he's continuing to ask him questions instead of calling in security or calling the police. Like, he's on the show and he's literally admitted to killing three people, but you're just continuing to ask him questions as though it's just a normal interview. That was one aspect that just didn't make any sense to me, and I would have liked to see better screenplay writing there. There was also an issue I had with the sequence where Arthur is literally killing the three guys on the train. And basically, it felt pretty forced that they were just being complete, like, Stephen King level high school bullies. Or that's what they felt like, at least. And they were literally just kicking him down and beating at him for no reason. It felt kind of forced within the screenplay, and it didn't line up that well. It felt very unmotivated, and it just didn't really make much sense to me. But that is a very minor issue. It is just a logical fallacy. There was also something that I felt was an issue when I first watched it, but now I look at it a bit differently, and it was basically this romance between Arthur and Sophie, and how they seemed to be so interested in each other, but then she looked at him as a complete stranger when they saw him towards the final act. And at first I was like, that's just a major character inconsistency, but now I look more at it like it's playing into the factor of ambiguity, and it's leaving it up to your interpretation. Like, was it a fantasy, was it not, or which parts of it were fantasy? And that was much more respectable. I appreciated it a lot more when I watched it again. I generally love how this film is so ambiguous. A lot of it is left up to your interpretation, especially towards the ending. Like, it's entirely possible that the entire film was a fantasy of his right up until that very ending, when he was in the mental hospital running away from that other patient or doctor or whoever it was. Or maybe even the entire final act was a fantasy of his. You don't know. That's what's so great about it. But this film also really evolves the more you watch it. I really appreciated this film so much more when I watched it again, and I'm glad I did. I have never seen an origin story to a superhero or a villain that impacted me this emotionally. This was such a powerful story, portrayed with great acting from Joaquin Phoenix, and I could not appreciate this film more. If I had to give a rating for it now, I would definitely give it a solid A. This was brilliant, and I totally recommend you check this out if you haven't seen it and you're still watching this review for some reason. I really look forward to doing more spoiler reviews and analysis videos like this, so if you like this review, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you in the next video.